Hello, beautiful people. I am so glad you're here. Welcome to Your Spiritual Guru podcast. I'm your host and spiritual guru, Erin. I've been on my own spiritual journey for the past 2 years, and it's an honor to walk beside you as you navigate through your own. This podcast is for anyone who is wanting to do inner work, get more in tune with themselves, heal past traumas, and find their inner power. If that's you, then sit tight because this is going to get deep. You ready? Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Your Spiritual Guru podcast. If y'all are listening to this when it comes out, it is Friday, and it is the Friday after Valentine's Day. I'm actually recording this the day after Valentine's Day. I hope y'all had a great holiday. Mine did not go as planned. A lot of stuff came up and I got sick, and so me and my boo are just gonna celebrate it another day, when both of us are off and, I feel better. But I hope that all of y'all had a great holiday and got to spend time with your loved ones and celebrate it however you celebrate Valentine's Day. It's funny that I chose the topic for today. Well, it's actually not funny. I did it on purpose, but I was feeling a lot of anxiety today, mainly because I was just sick and I didn't really get to do a lot on the days that I was sick. And it got me thinking about just like my journey and my struggle with anxiety. And it's something that I don't really talk about a lot, but I feel like a lot of people need to hear more stories around it because it's something that affects a lot more people than you may think. And I think that people have this idea that, once you start doing inner work or, you have like a spiritual journey or, you're enlightened or whatever, that anxiety and depression don't affect you, and that couldn't be further from the truth. But I wanted to just come on here and share what my journey looked like, how I found out about anxiety, all of those things. So I say found out about anxiety because growing up, we really didn't talk about mental health. Like, that wasn't a thing, and I'm sure some people can relate to that, especially in the Black community. Like, mental health just was not talked about when I was younger. And I don't think I really got information about it or really got to know about it until I was like in college. So after I was 20, right? Now, that's not to say that I didn't already struggle with anxiety and depression before then, because most likely I did. I just didn't know what it was, right? So I distinctly remember when this was after I graduated high school. I was in college, and I was also working at the time. So I was a full-time student, but I was also, working at the mall, like across the street from my college, and I was working at Victoria's Secret. So I was in retail, which we all know is a very, very stressful, line of work, customer service, anything like that, serving jobs. It's high stress, it's a high stress environment. And I remember I kept feeling like when I would take a breath, I couldn't get a full breath of air. And I just felt like I couldn't breathe, like, all the time. But I noticed that it would only really, like, flare up when I went to work, right? And so I remember calling my my teacher from my first responder class in high school, if y'all remember that story. We're still very good friends to this day. Like, she was at my EMT graduation. She said she'll be there for my fire graduation and my paramedic graduation. Like, we're still very, very good friends to this day. So I call her, I'm giving her all of these symptoms, and I'm like, I just don't know what's going on. Like, by that time, I had been to doctor after doctor because I thought I had like a respiratory issue. Like, I thought something was wrong with my breathing or my heart or something like that. And all of these doctors are saying, like, there's nothing wrong with you. We can't find anything wrong. Like, you're healthy, all of this. So and remember, this is the time where, like, I didn't know what anxiety or depression was. Like, I didn't, that was not in my radar, right? And so I remember this conversation with Mel, and she said, I'm giving her all of these symptoms and explaining how I'm feeling and what I'm going through. And she said, Erin, it sounds like you're on the brink of a major anxiety or panic attack. And I was like, what? What do you mean, anxiety? What is that? Like, I was like, huh? I didn't know what she was talking about. And that was kind of the first, like, I guess, insight that I got into what anxiety was. And I was just taken aback because I was like, God, now everything makes sense. And y'all, like, when I tell you, I feel like, if I'm doing hindsight 2020, I think looking back on everything and kind of how and when things started to flare up, it all started with my mom's passing, right? Because that was a huge traumatic experience for me. And I remember, if you listen to the podcast, I think a couple of episodes back, I kind of went through that day of my mom passing and everything like that. So if y'all recall, she passed away in her sleep. And y'all, my Lord, my poor boyfriends at the time, they probably thought I was crazy. I literally remember telling my significant other at the time, whoever I was with, that I needed them to watch me sleep to make sure that I didn't stop breathing. Like, I was that afraid of, like, dying in my sleep. And at the time, I didn't put two and two together that it's like I was basically traumatized by my mom's death, and like that was the result. Like, I was scared to die in my sleep, and like that was the result of that. But I just remember telling them, like, you need to watch me sleep so that to make sure that I don't stop breathing. Like, it's crazy to think about, like, how that happened and how far gone that seems. Like, but also it feels like it was just yesterday. And I also remember a time where, my breathing problems, I say that with air quotes for those of you who aren't watching me on YouTube right now and can't see me. But my breathing problems were so bad one night that I literally thought I was dying. Like, I thought that I was going to die. Like, I remember calling my aunt and my sibling at the time, I called my aunt and my cousin, and I was like, I'm on the way to the hospital. I don't know what this is. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but like, if y'all don't hear from me, and like, just saying my last goodbyes, pretty much. Like, I literally thought I was dying. And, this was on the way to the hospital. I had my significant other at the time take me, and like, I don't know if that was before or after. I think it was before Mel had told me about, the major panic attack, and I feel like that was my major panic attack, where I literally thought that I was dying. And from there, the fact that I was able to basically put a face to the name, like, okay, these are the things that I'm experiencing, or that I was experiencing. Now I have a title, I have something like legitimate that I can work to fix, right? Because before, it was just, I was feeling this way and I was going to doctor after doctor, and they're like, we don't know what's wrong with you, But now I'm like, okay, this is anxiety. Like, I can pinpoint it now, so now we can work towards, rectifying it. So, I tried different medications, and it took a while to kind of figure out the dosage and the right medication, because they were like, I had some side effects with them. And so, that took a minute. But also, I also realized that my anxiety stemmed from a lack of knowing. Well, it stemmed from two places: a lack of knowing, and also the feeling of so much to do, too little time, right? And it was a constant between those two, like the unknown and too much, right? And so the older I got, especially when I started to, get deeper into my spiritual journey and my inner work, I realized that I needed to work on those elements first. And over time, I felt like what I was feeling with my anxiety started to, I won't say like I'm completely cured of anxiety, but I feel like I was able to alleviate some of the symptoms and, just the day to day things because I was more aware of where it was coming from, right? So as far as like the unknown, when I started working on my chakras and just really pinpointing like those powerhouses and working to heal and open those, you know, the whole sense of control, I realized I had a problem with. I was a control freak. I had to have a plan for everything. I had to know exactly what was going to happen and when. And if I didn't, I couldn't function, right? But I had to realize that's not how life is. Like you can't have all the answers. You're not going to have all the answers in most cases. You're not going to know everything. And I saw a quote once that kind of really just put things into perspective for me. It said, worrying about something is the same as putting yourself through it twice, right? So me worrying about something that may or may not happen is basically putting my body through it twice, because I'm when you are suffering from anxiety, your body is literally going into that fight or flight mode. It's like your body is reacting as if you're under attack, but there's no threat, there's no danger. So you're literally putting your body through like this turmoil for in some cases no reason at all, right? And so that really helped me just sit down and be like, look, I'm not going to have all the answers. I'm not going to know everything all of the time. And, whatever is meant to be is going to be. Like, there's some things that I literally have no control over. And that's the thing. Like, I feel like for me, I was focusing on wanting control over the wrong things instead of focusing on what I can control. And when I focus on what I can control, the things that are meant for me will gravitate towards me naturally, right? Also, speaking of that, I feel like my anxiety, speaking of like doing the inner work and things like that, I think it was my body's way of telling me when I was in a situation or a place that was not aligned with me, right? So in retail, especially during that time of my life, like the manager that I had was awful. I felt like I was doing everything right or everything that I was supposed to do at the job, but it was like never enough, and remember I said my anxiety would be exacerbated when I went to work, right? And, my anxiety would flare up in certain relationships. And so it was almost like my body's way of telling me like, hey, something is not right here. Like, we don't feel safe here. Like, this is not okay, right? And also, aside from, thinking about what you can and can't control, the other flip side of that, which is kind of what exacerbates my anxiety now to this day, is like, just like today, so much to do, so little time. And so kind of what helps me with that, I've done a lot of like personal development. I was part of a network marketing community, and I had my own business for a while, and I still kind of am a business owner with that company. I've just chosen to kind of take a step back momentarily to kind of figure out my next steps. But one of the positive things that came out of that network marketing community is the personal development. Like, you have to develop yourself in order to be the leader, the business owner that you want to be. And a lot of the books and podcasts that I was able to be introduced to changed my outlook on life in so many ways. And so, with the thought of there's so much to do, too little time, it became a matter of just breaking it down, right? So, okay, you have so much to do, you feel like there's not enough time. Just do one thing. Just do one thing. And it's amazing to me how that one thing will turn into 2 or 3. And oh shit, in no time I got everything crossed off my list that I wanted to do. Just like today. I woke up and I was feeling 10 times better than I did the day before. But I was like, crap, like, I gotta wash dishes, I gotta make dinner, I gotta clean up my daughter's room, I gotta clean up the house, I gotta record this podcast. Like, there's just so much to do. And after I dropped my daughter off at daycare, I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna do one thing at a time. And that's what I did. Like, I just boom, boom, boom. And now I've done everything that I needed to do, and I still have time left. And now when I pick my daughter up from daycare, I'm not going to have all of these things that I have to do. I can use that time to spend time with her before she goes to sleep. And so that's really helped me in those aspects. Now, do I still suffer from anxiety from time to time? Absolutely. But I think the difference between then and now is that I'm able to identify better when I'm in the midst or in the middle of feeling anxious, and being able to sit down and identify where that anxiety is stemming from and focus more on that than just the anxiety, right? So the anxiety is just an umbrella. And I feel like a lot of people maybe use it as a crutch, instead of doing the work to heal whatever it is internally that's triggering the anxiety. They just say, oh, well, I'm just anxious, I just have anxiety, and that's it. Whereas for me, what really helped me to be able to manage my anxiety without medication or anything like that is to pinpoint, because the anxiety doesn't come from just anywhere, right? Something is triggering it. And until you figure out what that something is, it's always going to be a factor. Now, just like I said, I still suffer from anxiety, but I'm better able, like, I haven't had a panic attack in years. I can't remember the last panic attack that I had, because I'm able to identify where that's stemming from before it gets to that level, to that extreme, right? So that's what I want to share with y'all today. And I hope that resonated or helped someone out there if you're struggling with anxiety. And also, like, I just want to say, it is no shame if you have to, be on medication to help balance yourself out. Like, these are mental health issues, and they are sometimes just like, you can't change how your brain is wired sometimes by yourself. You can in some instances, but sometimes you just need that extra push, right? There's no shame in that. And in the beginning of my journey, like I said, I had to be on medication because I didn't know how to balance it on my own. And it just takes time. It takes work. And, I'm very grateful for the personal development and just the inner work that I've been able to do so that I can, manage it a little bit better on my own. But, if you're starting out and you're still, taking medications, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. The most important thing is just for you to be healthy and happy, and however that looks for you is right for you, So, that's all I have for y'all today. Until we meet again. Namaste.